Welcome back. Catalonia's former leader has challenged Spain and the European Union to respect the results of regional elections next month, saying Madrid will have to end direct rule if separatists win. Now, speaking from Belgium, where he fled earlier this month, Carles Puigdemont says Catalans have shown the world that they have the capacity and the will to become an independent state. Polls show the pro-independence camp is expected to win next month, but there are concerns it might fall short of a majority needed in Parliament to reignite support for the campaign. In Germany, a grand coalition between Angela Merkel's Conservative bloc and her Social Democrat rivals could be back on the cards after the SDP agreed to talks with the Chancellor. Merkel welcomed the development, saying the coalition worked well in the past and it could save Germany from the brink of political crisis. The SPD previously refused to form another partnership, choosing instead to go into opposition. But the collapse of three-way coalition talks between the Conservatives, Greens and the pro-business Free Democrats has prompted the SPD to reconsider. The Libyan Coast Guard has rescued around 200 people in two separate operations off its western coast, but it wasn't able to save all from drowning in vessels that were three-quarters underwater. Conway Gittins has the details.
A gruesome recovery off the shores of Libya Saturday. The bodies of at least 31 African migrants carried back to land in white body bags after their boat sank off of Libya's western coast. Some of the dead were children. They were the unlucky ones. The Libyan Coast Guard rescuing some 200 people traveling together on two boats, plucking some out of the water and bringing them back to the port of Tripoli. But that wasn't the only rescue of the day. In a separate operation, another 110 migrants, including women and children, were brought back to a port in the Libyan city of Combs. Many Africans are willing to take the risk of trying to get to Europe by way of treacherous boat trips leaving from Libya. Smugglers make the arrangements using flimsy, overcrowded boats that often break down or sink. There's been a noticeable surge in crossing attempts this week after a sharp drop since July. Nearly 3,000 migrants have died this year or are missing as a result of trying to cross into Europe by sea. Just Friday, the International Organization for Migration called the Mediterranean, quote, by far the world's deadliest border.
To the latest on Zimbabwe's leadership shift now, and after the downfall of Robert Mugabe, attention is turning to its former finance minister. Ignatius Chombo is facing corruption charges which date back more than a decade, and as Pascal Davies reports, he was detained in the military takeover which ultimately ended Mugabe's reign.
As Zimbabwe faces a new political era, the ousted former finance minister Ignacio Chombo has been charged with 3 counts of corruption in offences that took place more than a decade ago. Chombo was among those detained by the military when they seized power before Robert Mugabe resigned. Chombo was charged with attempting to defraud the Zimbabwean Central Bank, among other offences committed in 2004. He was local government minister at the time. Chombo's lawyer says he was admitted to hospital with injuries sustained from beatings he received in military custody. But a Reuters reporter says Chombo had no visible injuries and appeared calm. The former finance minister was detained almost 2 weeks ago after the military launched Operation Restore Legacy, which it said was meant to remove criminals around the ousted President Mugabe. Several members of a group allied to Mugabe and his wife Grace were detained and expelled from the ruling party. Before his inauguration, the new president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, urged the country's citizens not to undertake in any form of, quote, vengeful retribution.
Well, it made for a spectacular sight, but Bali's Agung volcano is causing travel headaches after erupting overnight. Plumes of ash and steam billowed into the sky, topping 1,500 metres and forcing thousands on the ground to evacuate. Some international flights have resumed, but other carriers are still assessing the situation. Volcanic ash is incredibly risky to fly near as it can severely damage the aircraft. Now, it was a similar scene in Mexico where the Popo volcano has erupted, spreading ash across villages and fields. Authorities have placed the volcano, which has been active since the mid-90s, on yellow alert, which means residents should stay aware. Popo regularly emits smoke and ash, but is rarely considered life-threatening to nearby communities. Cool vision there, though, at least. All right, time for sports now. Manchester United has moved 3 points closer to Premier League leaders Man City with a win over Brighton. An own goal by Lewis Dunk moved United to within 5 points of the Citizens, who play Huddersfield later tonight. Meantime, Chelsea denied Liverpool a much-needed win at Anfield. A late goal by Willian gave the Blues a share of the spoils. Elsewhere, Tottenham managed only a 1-1 draw with West Brom, while Watford bagged all 3 points with a win over Newcastle. Crystal Palace secured a 2-1 victory over Stoke, while the match between Swansea and Bournemouth ended in a stalemate. With the 2018 FIFA World Cup drawing on the horizon, all eyes seem to be on Russia's seat at the table. Now, this after the host nation's entire 2014 squad faced a doping investigation earlier this year. Our reporter Oliver Reagan sat down with former Russian winger Andrei Kanchelskis ahead of the event to discuss the big issues in Russian football.
Yes, it's very, very good for us, for Russian football as well, because it's now a lot of completely different change. Every stadiums, new stadiums, lovely stadiums, and hotels, airports, and everything changed. You know, it's just everybody wait for the World Cup, which is good for Russian football. You know.
What about the team, the actual players? Not maybe in the best of form, struggling. You know, people are saying they do well to get to the quarterfinals.
This team no great at the moment. There's problems and not too many players who is play like before in any abroad. You know, it's when my period we play a lot of players and play myself in England, Harin in England, and a lot of players in Italy, Germany, Spain. You know, it's no foreign players. So everybody play in Russia. This is problems. Yeah, it's no quality players. You know, it's team now. It's not great.
And what about, obviously, there's been, as you said, there's been a lot of negativity surrounding Russian sports over the past few years. How important is it for this event to create positivity?
Yes, of course. It's important because it's too much negative about drugs, you know. So always speaking Olympics, people problems, and this is good for us, for the people, for the sportsmen, everybody, you know, because it went World Cup in Russia. Yeah.
You mentioned the doping. Obviously, FIFA are now saying that they're going to explore Russian football for doping. I mean, are you confident that the Russian team are clean and that there's no problems with doping with Russia?
Yeah, of course. It's no questions. It's very, very clean. It's all right. It's no problem. Just it's too much and speak about doping, you know, too much. And if you see in some too many American Olympics as well, there's problems with doping, you know. Nobody say about this. Only speak about Russia. Only speak just concentration only one way for the Russia. Yeah, why?
Staying on football, and Lionel Messi is set to stay with Barcelona till 2021 after signing a new contract with the La Liga giants. The five-time Player of the Year reportedly agreed to a renewal back in July, but the club didn't release the usual photo of him putting pen to paper at the time, fueling speculation of an early departure. No one seemed to be happier than Barca coach Ernesto Valverde. He says it was only a matter of time before Messi pushed for an extension. In tennis, France has inched closer to a 10th Davis Cup title after doubles pair Richard Gasquet and Pierre-Hugues Herbert crushed their Belgian opponents. The duo beating Ruben Belmonens and Yori Delure 6-1, 3-6, 7-6, 6-4 to give France the upper hand. Belmonens suffered a meltdown in the third set, allowing the hosts to turn the tables on their opponents. A little closer to home, and the big air snowboarding event in Beijing has seen Austria and Canada stealing the limelight in pretty spectacular fashion. Now, the women's event featured Austria's Anna Gasser, who wiped out the competition with 175.50 points, even though she bruised her foot during the event. She edged out her Japanese rival by nearly 20 points, leaving Finland third. Canada's Mark McMorris won the men's competition, beating out competition from New Zealand and Norway. The two winners have rounded up 1,000 World Cup points individually so far.
Feels so good. It's kind of a little redemption from last year in Innsbruck, where I didn't even make it to finals, and I just really wanted to compete here, and I bruised my heel in practice really bad, so I didn't even know if I could do qualification, and I'm so happy everything worked out at the end.
Now finally, 3 young Hong Kongers, nabbed the award for Best Animated Short Film at the Golden Horse Awards for a story on the struggles suffered by sexual minorities. And they weren't the only Hong Kongers to shine at this event, which is also known as the Chinese Oscars. Actress Cara Wei scored her first Best Leading Actress prize for her role in the Taiwanese thriller The Bold, the Corrupt and the Beautiful. A film about a wealthy family gripped by dark political and business intrigues dominated the awards, picking up 3 gongs.
Taiwan's dark side has never changed. You can even find examples in the movie of what happened in the last few years, such as the excess credit loans. The way we're dealing with things has always been the same. We've been bullied by big corporations for too long. This movie is about the greed of governments and big corporations.
Good on him. All right, that's it for now. Join us again at 11:30 for the late news.